I'm honestly beyond frustrated right now. This is not the first time. Highly impractical. As all of you know, I absolutely love my 2008 Tesla Roadster. I think it's the best car in the world, but I also think it's the worst Tesla in the world, and I'll show you why. I don't even know how this thing is considered a Tesla. Let's go for a ride and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Let's start off by addressing the thing Teslas are most famous for, which would be their charging network. So we're over here at the Roseville Galleria Mall. The superchargers are lined up all along the walls there, and I'll show you what it's like to charge a Roadster. Let's go ahead and pop the trunk. Huh. Well, that doesn't look like it's gonna work, does it? Can't even reach, because these are meant for cars that could back up all the way, but I can't do that without scraping the diffuser. Okay, no problem. I've got adapters that can make this work. Check this out. I've got this handy adapter by Henry Sharp. This is a CAN SR adapter, and the point of this is to take the standard Tesla charger that we know, like the one that's behind me, and convert it to Tesla Roadster juice. The problem is this still won't work. The big issue is that this car does not take any sort of DC fast charging, and that means that no Tesla chargers are going to work, unfortunately. The exception being the Tesla destination chargers. You don't need an app to access them. They're not DC fast charging, but you do need permission from the owner to actually use their charge. Unfortunately, for a supercharger like this, it's a no-go. So that means that if we want to charge our car, we're going to have to look at one of our third-party options. That includes Blink, ChargePoint, Electrify America, all those. I don't really know the difference. I have all the apps. Let's go try one of them out. Since that clearly didn't work, we are now on our way to a nearby Blink charger so we could try that instead. I'm honestly beyond frustrated right now. I'm frustrated because apparently I won't be able to show you what it's like to charge a Tesla because all the chargers in Sacramento are broken, all of them, none of them work. The first one I went to, broken, didn't work. I reported it to Blink. The second one I went to didn't work, broken. I reported it to Blink. The third one was in front of a dealership and it wasn't a Blink charger at all and it didn't work. The fourth one was at a dealership. It was a Blink charger, but that one didn't work also. The fifth one was at a hospital and I couldn't find the Blink one specifically, but it didn't really matter because there were non-EVs parked all up and down the thing. So I won't be able to show you today. However, I'll show you what I would do in theory if a Blink charger that worked existed. So the main problem is the Roadster doesn't take any sort of DC fast charging, and what that means is that I have to find a lower powered AC charger to use it. Typically Blink would be the best example here because they're plentiful and they are on the old J1772 or J1772 standard, which looks a little something like this, actually exactly like that because that's what that is. Obviously my Roadster doesn't use that standard, and so that's where this adapter comes in. I actually got this for free with my Model Y, and it takes the J1772 standard and it gives you Tesla power instead. Standard Tesla power, which is still not good enough, but as you know, we've got the Henry Sharp CAN SR adapter. We plug in the Tesla power into here, and we got ourselves a J1772 to Tesla Roadster adapter. In theory, it's as easy as that, but in practice, as you've seen today, I have driven around the city for hours today, and I have not been able to find a single Blink charger that works. That's not to say that it's impossible to charge because these cars do get road tripped by some brave individuals. It just seems they probably use something other than Blink, and I have yet to figure out what that is. So the next thing to know is that it's not the most comfortable car in the world. The seats are pretty thin and far from luxury, and the suspension is nice and stiff. Let me show you what happens when you drive over little bumps. So you can feel all that in your spine, you can hear all of it. It's no fun, it's not comfortable. If I ran over a coin, I could probably tell you if it was heads or tails. Another thing is you don't really get any privacy with this car, which is not a big deal if you're a social person or you just genuinely enjoy meeting people like I do. But I know not all of you are the same. And it's sometimes exhausting when you're just trying to go to the store and just trying to get in your car, but everyone keeps stopping you to ask questions. If you're like me and you genuinely enjoy meeting new people, this is not a problem. In fact, it's a perk, but I know a lot of you aren't this way, so it's something worth knowing before you go and pick yourself up a Roadster. Another thing worth considering is how much support you're going to be getting with a car like this versus a car like this. For example, with a modern Tesla, if you have a question or if there's a part that you need to buy, there will be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people with your exact specific year, make, and model that you can ask. There's parts you can buy. There's people that can work on these cars. On the other hand, something like a Roadster that hasn't even been built in over 10 years, well, who am I going to ask if I have questions or if there's parts that I need to buy? For example, over here, we've got a couple of switches, and these pop right off. They're just little plastic switches. The problem is one of them popped off, and I don't know where it is. Can I find a replacement? Absolutely not. By the way, if you've got a spare one of these knobs, let me know. I'll I'll make it worth your while. Or for example, you come around back here. That came off while it was getting washed. Can't find a replacement badge for that. So again, if you know someone with a replacement A for the old school Tesla badges, let me know. But the fact is, you have very, very limited support with this car versus a modern Tesla. In fact, I would be so screwed if not for the fact that pretty much all 2,000 Tesla Roadster owners today kind of keep in touch and will answer each other's questions. Let's say you find a public blink charger that actually works. One of the perks of a Tesla, right, is it saves you a lot of time compared to a gas car, which you have to go out of your way to refuel, versus a Tesla that charges itself for you while you sleep. When you're charging in public, things are a little different. And that can take like 20 or even 30 minutes to fully charge your Tesla, depending on your battery size and the speed of the charger. Now, when you're supercharging a Tesla, obviously you're not saving any time, but you can at least multitask. I've done Zoom calls over my Tesla with my built-in camera and built-in software. I've played games. Some of them actually use the steering wheel to operate the controller. So let's say we're in this hypothetical situation, we actually find a blink charger that works, and we decide, well, we need to kill some time and play some games. Here's what we're working with. That's it. That's the touchscreens. There ain't no games on it. There's not much I can do in this menu. Information, valet mode, settings, and locking it. Now, if I disengage the parking brake, all the fun stuff opens up, which is not much. We have temperature information for the motor, power electronics module, and the battery itself. We have basic information like the temperature outside, the time, how much range I have left in ideal situations, outside temperature, which seems to be off by about 20 degrees at any given point. The elevation, that actually might be right. We've got a very similar graph to the first generation Prius from 20 years ago. We've got some trip data over here as well. We have some telemetry over here, including torque, power, and acceleration, and a clock. I couldn't find the games. The fact is, the next thing that I'm gonna say that sucks about these Roadsters is the software and lack of functionality on the screen. I mean, this is the first Tesla touchscreen we're looking at, and you can tell. Now, while we're on this menu, I'm gonna bring up one huge issue with these Roadsters. And actually, instead of telling you, let me just show you. I've got the trunk popped open so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. So over here, we have the original 15-year-old Tesla battery, as well as the power electronics module. So this is kind of like the ECU, and it handles charging, as you can see through the cable that connects to the charger and all that. Now, the cooling of the battery and the PEM is really interesting because I do have air intakes here, which directly go to passively cooling the power electronics module. I also have some things up here, including heater and radiator and all that, which actually helps cool down the car. The actual reservoir of battery coolant is over here in the back, but it circulates to the whole thing. It's kind of quirky because if you put this car in range mode to maximize your range, part of what it does is it actually turns off the part of the battery that is used to cool itself and the power electronics module. So if you want to put it in a range mode and get the full range of the car, well, you're going to overheat if it's anything over like 80 degrees. And the fans in there are not high quality and they break down and need to be replaced. So the cooling down isn't that great. Why is that important? Well, it's important for a couple of reasons. Number one, I've had times where it has overheated so much that it essentially put me into a limp mode. And when that happens, the maximum output I've gotten has been about 50 amps, which to put in a perspective gives me a 0 to 20 mile an hour time of something like 8 seconds. I am worse than a diesel semi at the light. It was so bad, that drive, that when I got home, trying to back the car up my driveway didn't work. I was flooring it and going about half a mile per hour. I'm really trying to take care of this battery because this is the original 15-year-old battery on the car, but battery tech has gone a long way since then. So not only are modern Teslas much better at cooling down than these old ones are, but these batteries also can't take the same amount of abuse as new ones. I'm looking at a $30,000 battery if I need to change this thing. So I'm gonna say the next thing on this list is the battery tech. This is not the first time on a hot day like this that I've had to stop and look for a shaded spot so I can stop and cool down my car from overheating. While I've got this all opened up, let me go over another huge perk that every modern Tesla has except this one, and that's storage. Tesla has storage on storage on storage. So for example, to compare the RAV4 to the Model Y, not only does the Model Y have more space inside, it also has a sub-trunk underneath the trunk that has space enough for a whole suitcase and a frunk in the front. Needless to say, the practicality and utility of a Tesla is unbeatable, but not here. Let's go over all of our storage, shall we? We've got this carbon fiber shell for storage here, which is actually not too bad for the category of car. The problem is that's basically all we're working with. We have a little bit of storage here. We don't even have a glove box. We have a little bit of a glove tray. If I want my cup holder, I'm going to have to intrude on my passenger space because that is the only place for a cup holder. There is no storage in the back, so all of my paperwork and information I keep under the seat, which is tricky because the seat is pretty much flat against the ground. Unlike a modern Tesla, We've got a lot going on over here, so we do not have space for a front. In other words, so far, pretty much every single perk that comes with buying an EV does not exist with this thing. If anything, it's worse. Let's go ahead and close this up. So I mentioned with this thing, you get pretty much no privacy. You know, people are usually coming out of their way to either park next to you or talk to you before you leave, which again, if you're okay with meeting new people, like I genuinely enjoy doing, that's actually a perk. But I feel like most people are not in the same situation and would rather just go about their day and do their business. There is one situation where I get a ton of privacy. I'm talking I am invisible and nobody can see me. And it's a bad thing because it's when I'm on the road, because this car is tiny. And for perspective, look at how much taller the car next to me is. So the top of my head is below the bottom of their window. I could be next to somebody and they will have no idea I'm there. And this isn't some massive truck or semi or bus that I'm talking about that's next to me over here. This looks like it's a Honda Pilot. It's a pretty standard SUV. If anything, it's a little bit on the small side. So you gotta learn to drive these cars in a very peculiar way to make sure that you're always being seen. Those of you who have their M-Class or motorcycle licenses, or even those of you who ride bicycles a lot, probably know what I'm talking about. It's about your positioning relative to other people, and it's just about making yourself visible and obvious, as well as being as predictable as possible when you're on the road. This is not a car, this is a race car. And unless you've had a race car before, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. But everything about this car, the way it breathes, the way it communicates with you, the way it handles, is different. For one, this is going to be the lightest EV you'll probably ever see. It's incredibly lightweight, it's got direct steering, it's got rear-wheel drive, it's fully carbon fiber, it is lightweight and made to handle the track like a beast. Missing a lot of airbags though. So as you know from any modern Tesla, there are a ton of safety features in those cars. For example, on a modern Tesla, notice how beefy that A-pillar is up over here because it's got an airbag inside. In fact, the whole car makes you feel like you're surrounded in bubble wrap. Not here. This is a carbon fiber shell. So outside of a little bit of leather on the inside, there is not much happening in this door. I'm not positive that they don't have airbags in the door, but let's just say that I would put money on there not being airbags on that door. So the lesson from that is, if you're driving a race car, don't crash the race car. Here's the one I'll leave you on. Personally, I think this is an absolutely beautiful car, even with the roof on. In fact, I would say especially with the roof on. Car enthusiasts, though, have no idea what it is. And the thing that I get most often is that a Lotus Elise? Which, to be fair, is a good guess. It is a heavily modified Lotus Elise chassis, and there's like 5 to 7% of the parts which overlap with the Lotus Elise here, so that's not a bad guess. Granted, most people are not car enthusiasts, so overall the thing that I hear the most is, whoa, is that a Miata? And it's not a Miata. It is similar to a Miata in some ways. It's lightweight, it's rear-wheel drive, but unlike a Miata, I can't sprint faster than my car. To sum up, the Tesla Roadster is a highly impractical race car that gets almost none of the benefits of a classic EV. Even though the Tesla superchargers are now getting open to non-Teslas like Ford, this Tesla still can't use it. The games suck, there's no games. The software is really, really limited. It's not very, very comfortable. It's not very, very safe. It performs really well when it's in the right temperature range. Otherwise, you're gonna have to baby this battery so you don't have to pay $30,000 to replace it. It's not very comfortable. You probably can't see me. I probably can't see you. And even if you could, you'd probably say, hey, nice Miata. Anyway, that's it for this one. Appreciate you guys as always for watching, and until next time.